A couple weeks ago, we told you about an investigation into Vancouver Public Schools by Washington's Attorney General. That investigation found the district was violating state law and disproportionately punishing students of color.
Well, the Fox 12 investigators took a closer look at that issue to see how that district compares with other districts in Washington. Simon Gutierrez breaks down what they found.
In a statement released after the Attorney General announced the results of his investigation, the Vancouver School District said that this was a statewide problem. The numbers we crunched show that's true, but Vancouver still stands out, and not in a good way. In the 2017-18 school year at Vancouver Public Schools, more than 11% of students of Hawaiian and Pacific Islander descent were excluded from school. Just behind them, just under 11% of black students were excluded, compared to just under 5% of white students. What do you think about those numbers?
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, there's clearly a problem.
Deborah Bauman's daughter is a sophomore at Skyview High School in Vancouver, which has even more jarring discipline disparities than the district as a whole. In the same school year there, more than 25% of black students were excluded, compared to 4.8% of white students.
I mean, I'm not surprised. But yeah, I mean, there should be steps to change that.
The numbers drew the attention of the Washington Attorney General's office, which conducted an investigation. In a letter to the district, the AG's office said it had concluded, quote, VPS discipline practices violate state law, requiring discipline be imposed in a manner that does not have a disproportionate effect on the bases of race, national origin, or disability.
Is it an aha moment to look at those numbers?
Oh, absolutely.
Carrie Van Nostren is president of the Vancouver Education Association.
I think there are definitely areas for improvement to better integrate cultural awareness and more culturally aware practices.
The district denied our request for an on-camera interview, directing us instead to an online statement in which Superintendent Steve Webb says, quote, we appreciate the Attorney General and his staff for highlighting these areas. He goes on to say, quote, we are committed to refining our policies and practices to be appropriate and equitable. The district also says there has been a more than 40% reduction in the exclusion rate for black students from 2013 to 2017. What do you think the district's responsibility is here?
Well, to do something about it, to not let it keep continuing.
For some context, we looked at the numbers for the whole state. For all Washington schools, 8.5% of black students were excluded and 5.7% of Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders. As you can see, the Vancouver School District's numbers are higher. In the nearby Evergreen School District, the numbers are lower than the state average. 7% of black students and just over 5% of Hawaiian Pacific Islanders were excluded. Both those numbers are significantly lower than Vancouver Public Schools.
Do you think teachers in the district are adequately trained in implicit bias?
We may not be there yet, but we are certainly on our way.
For parents like Deborah Bauman, it can be a tough conversation to have, but one she hopes leads to real changes.
It is a shame, but it's necessary, and until it's talked about enough and the right people get involved and do something about it, we'll be talking about it forever.
The Vancouver School District has hired a consultant to look into the concerns raised by the Attorney General's office. The district is also reaching out to community partners and is in the process of putting together an action plan for changes to student discipline practices. Reporting in studio, Simon Gutierrez, Fox 12 Oregon.